Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a very special edition. Tonight, we are once again joined by Maria Farmer. And since we last talked, there has been a lot of movement on several fronts. First of all, Maria, how are you feeling tonight?
Oh, thank you. Well, tonight I'm feeling a little rough, so I might be a little slow. I have to apologize, but maybe that'll give you an opportunity to talk this time.
That's okay. Look, here's the thing, and I told people when they asked me about that interview with you, in my opinion, you've had your voice censored and stepped on and edited enough, and that's not what that's all my goal is here. My goal here is for you to speak directly to people who are working on your behalf to bring justice to this case. And basically what it is, it's a ton of citizen journalists and concerned citizens from around the world that have had enough.
Yes.
And that's why we have
really
you here.
Because it's people like you, the independent journalists. There are just a few like Kate at the Daily Beast and, a few others, a handful of them that are really pursuing this and care, and that's so amazing. It sure isn't NBC. It sure isn't Fox News. That's for sure. It sure isn't at CNN. Those people should really be ashamed of themselves. But I wanted to mention tonight, when we start, about Eileen Guggenheim.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about
we'll definitely talk about Eileen Guggenheim. But first, I wanted to mention that the petition that some of the advocates had got started, and specifically Kirby Summers, who is an advocate working towards women who have had their voices stolen from them by acts of sexual abuse and assault. So she put together a petition, and the petition had to do with the New York Academy of Art, Guggenheim sitting on the board, and her behavior in regards to your situation. And that petition has gained a lot of steam, and it has legs. So the Daily Mail has picked it up, and I think it's a nod in the right direction. And advocates who work towards bringing this stuff to light, they are a huge part of what's going on. So a lot of credit goes out to those activists, Kirby Summers, and the rest of the people who put that petition together. You know, there is a big place for advocates in this situation, and everyone has their part when it comes to this case.
Right. Well, one thing I wanted to address was the fact that it was brought to my attention through Lisa Tate that the New York Academy of Art victim shamed me yesterday. And what's so extra egregious about that is that's my alma mater. That woman sitting on the board as president, she never attended that school, but I did. She's never paid anything to that school, but I paid for my education there. So I would like to know why they think that's acceptable to start shaming graduates. I would also like to say that I'm the youngest person to have graduated from there, I think ever, when it was matriculated at least. And Randy Mellick may have been my age as well when he graduated, but most people are in their 40s when they enter that school. Right. I was 23 when I entered that school. I was right out of undergrad a year. I worked for a year, and then I went to graduate school. So most people, everyone in my class was in their 40s. I was by far the youngest person by like at least 10 years. So I think it's absurd for them to say, this is their statement. They said, this is the extra tacky part. They said Denim Day, International Denim Day 2020. We would like to make it known that Maria Farmer was an adult and 25 years of age when she graduated from the academy. That is their way of saying, it doesn't matter if you were raped. You were 25. It doesn't matter if you thought your sister was murdered and raped. She was 16 and you were 25. It doesn't matter if the dean of students tried to sell you to many different people because you were 25. What kind of school is this? First of all, the whole school needs to go. It's the most disgusting place on earth. If you look at their website, you can see some of the garbage that they call art. Give me a break. It's not in style to be peddling pornography, folks. Okay, let's just say it like that. I was a real artist. I was someone that actual artists adored and appreciated my work, and they knew that I had that something special, and I still do. And that was not nurtured. Instead of that being nurtured, Eileen Guggenheim kicked me to the curb. And when it hit the fan and I called her personally from the Wexner estate, she shamed me and hung up on me. When I told her that I thought my sister had died, when I told her that I was almost raped and I was sure Annie had been raped, and when I told her Randy Bowie was threatening my life, he was going to kill me.
All right,
I was very well aware of it. And Eileen Guggenheim, I had just graduated from that school, and she was still the sitting dean, and she said, well, you must have done something wrong.
So what we're talking about here, for those of you who might not be up to date on the story, is Maria was a student at the New York Academy of Art. And the lady Eileen Guggenheim, who was the dean at the time, was involved in Maria being introduced to Jeffrey Epstein. And then once that occurred and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine and the whole situation occurred with Maria, when she contacted Eileen Guggenheim, she was treated as persona non grata, like she did not exist, like she didn't believe her or anything like that. And now...
Right. Yeah, and she constantly referred to me as a nobody. And she thinks some people are somebodies and other people are nobodies. That's very passé, Eileen Faux Guggenheim. By the way, I want to make it clear, that is not the art family that she's from. She is not a real Guggenheim from the art family. She is not.
That's her nom de jour.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's kind of a joke. And who's the nobody now? You know, I said that before, but I really mean it. That was so sickening to be called that. And I don't think in those terms. I really don't. So I don't really understand that way of thinking. But that is how she's a faux elite, but the ones she was, trying to grab the heels of. She was grabbing the ankles of Ghislaine and letting her drag her through all the parties because she's not even on Ghislaine's level, okay?
And now she's still part of the board now. Now she's a sitting board member and the CEO, correct?
She's the president of the board.
So now think about that for a minute, folks, okay? This lady who was involved in obvious misdeeds from the very jump, somebody that was associating with Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that flew out to New Mexico, lied about it, was caught in a lie, and everything that has happened in between is now the CEO of that board, while Maria still searches for justice.
That's right. And not only that, she's been living the high life off of that school for quite some time. And I'm tired of her benefiting and profiting. And, the other thing is she's one of those people who, sucks up to celebrities. Like, she thinks they're somebodies. And I think she has that quite backwards, actually, because most of those celebrities, I wouldn't want to shake their hands. These are some real lowlifes from Pedowood that this woman hangs out with. And the overlap of the Weinstein friends and the Epstein friends is undeniable.
Oh, there's definitely...
You can't separate them.
No.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Maria, we all know, and you more than most of us, obviously, you lived it. You know that in these circles and where these billionaires dwell, it is always fellow travelers. It's not, you're not just showing up there if you're not invited. You're not showing up there if you're not part of the party, right? So it's not like they don't know what the other person is doing. Do you think that they don't gossip and they don't bicker? Come on, stop.
Right. One thing I wanted to mention, too, is the chef who just died.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's get to that. So there was, if you listen to the last episode, Maria was talking about one of the chefs that they were trying to track down who was, at the very least, a very important witness in the case. Well, this man just recently passed away, and that was just after he was located. So go ahead, Maria, pick up the story and tell us what happened.
Yeah, so, they're not releasing, how he died, and they're saying it's a private matter. I find it highly suspicious that every time someone wants to speak to somebody that's related to the Epstein case, they disappear, they die of suicide, all these things. Give me a break. That guy knew more than anyone involved. That is just really upsetting to me. It did have me shaken for a while. But I wanted to say about him is that when I slapped him, when I said goodbye to him and said, I can't believe when I went to the 66th Street apartment that Epstein's brother now owns, that have been full of women trafficked from Eastern Europe since the 90s. And that guy knows, and he's benefiting. He's living in this, he has all this property now. He's disgusting, Epstein's brother, obviously. But the fact that he knew all this trafficking was going on is undeniable because it was going on in his building. But also, when I decorated those buildings, I still had the key. So I went in to say to Chef Andy Stewart, you know what? I can't believe you let my sister and I be trafficked, especially my little sister. Why didn't you warn me? And he said, Maria, you knew because everybody knew. And well, let me tell you about that. Everyone did know. All of the people who surrounded Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell People like Eileen Guggenheim knew damn well what was going on. And that Eileen Guggenheim fed me to that couple. And I want to be really clear about this because everyone gets it mixed up. First, she thrust them on me when I'm in a very vulnerable position because I've just graduated. So I'm still kind of beholden to the dean, and it's my graduation night and we have our opening. And again, I'm the only one who sold art. And I sold 3 paintings that night. And instead of being impressed and really pushing me as a great artist, she's like, I think I'll pimp her. So she says, the one you sold for 12, you're only going to take 6 for it. And you're going to do it for the Academy. Do you hear me? For the Academy. For the Academy. And so the witch brings over these 2 people, and it's it's Ghislaine, same difference, Ghislaine and Jeffrey. And it was a very brief encounter, but they told me they were going to help me in the art world, and I was going to take this deal for the Academy. And what a deal it was for me. I just lost $6,000. So I never wanted to see them again. But Eileen Guggenheim makes me go on this trip, a field trip I did not want to go on upon graduation. Eric Fischel is the only reason I went because he's a genius. And I want to make it really clear, that man had no idea what was going on at the Academy. He was just a proper professor and a complete gentleman. That man never engaged with any students. He was never inappropriate. And he was my mentor. And I was around him alone many, many times. And I want people to know that is one respectable gentleman. I looked at him as a father figure and a mentor. And I have a great deal of respect and love for him. And so there are some good guys in this, there really are. Like I mentioned, John Paulson. He was never aware of any of this stuff going on, even though Eileen clearly actively was trying to sell me to him, push me on him. And, but he was an honorable guy when it came to these things. So there were a couple of people that were honorable, and that's it. And then the rest of us were just students, at her mercy. And I just think it's so absurd that this woman's still clutching. How old are you, Eileen Guggenheim? Stop trying to clutch to your job. Give it up. You lost.
Yeah, eventually what happens with these people, they're so corrupt with power and they're so corrupt with their own hubris and arrogance that they can't see the forest through the trees.
It's absolute chutzpah.
Absolutely, 100%. And Guggenheim is no different. And that's why something like this petition, everybody who knows me knows I'm not like really a big petition guy. They usually go nowhere. But this is a different kind of case because what it does is it shines a light on a part of the world that most people don't know about. And it's important that the whole case is looked at when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein so that people understand just how deep his tentacles went.
That's right. It's just, she can no longer hide, in her rotten corner in the dark.
And
because we're coming.
Exactly right.
We're all coming, and they all need to be very afraid because at some point I do believe this will go RICO.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think that it definitely has all of the hallmarks. We've definitely laid the groundwork here on the podcast since day one. The first episode we ever recorded was about RICO. And this is a prototypical RICO case. This is a prosecutor's dream case. So that's why it's so funny and so shocking that they're not pursuing it more aggressively.
Yeah, funny that Berman's done nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Besides,
everyone should write to the Southern District of New York and say, Berman, why don't you do your job finally? And why did you lie? Here's another thing I'd like to mention. Julie Brown, who's very self-serving. People like to call her a hero. I'm one of the victims. I can tell you right now, she's not a hero. She's not my enemy, but she is not a hero. She's done nothing except help Julie Brown. She's won an award today. Oh, Julie Brown, you're so important. No one had ever heard of her until she made herself famous on the backs of victims, okay? And she renegotiated to get that big $1 million book deal. She wanted to renegotiate after the arrest because she wanted more money. And is $1 of that going to go to the victims? I don't see any dollars coming towards victims. Maybe you could answer to that, Julie. If you're such a concerned citizen. Here's what was disgusting, though. Clearly, he's chummy with Julie Berman because he then gives her all the credit for knowing about the case. He's the head of the FBI in New York. Give me a break. They know everything about us. I mean everything. And the way I was so shocked is when Nesbitt said, we know where everyone is, when I asked how they found me. And I said, oh, you mean in the United States? She said, no, internationally, through Interpol. They know everything.
Yeah, there's no
So
doubt.
for them to pretend they don't know where Ghislaine Maxwell is, for them to pretend that they don't know where she is, that makes that guy the biggest jerk we've ever dealt with, other than Louis Freeh, who's in the private sector making millions as a lawyer, and he sat on this case the whole time. He's no better than Vicky Ward. They're in the same boat. And that Julie K. Brown, she's known for a long time about my sister and I. And you know what? She can get her awards, but she's not the hero. I want to mention the fact that Brad Edwards is an actual hero, a person that has made me believe I will get well. He's helped me understand what was wrong with my health. He's helped me emotionally. That man, we can call him at any time. And Sigrid McCauley, you can call her at any time, and that woman is an angel. So I just wanted to give them a shout out because it really bugs me when people are like, oh, Julie, you're so amazing. No, she belongs to a club that wanted her to be a member. She's not amazing.
And to let everybody know, Bradley Edwards and Sigrid and the rest, those are lawyers who have been battling it out with Jeffrey Epstein for years now with the estate, yes, and in defense of the survivors. And yes, as Maria just said, Bradley Edwards especially, he has the book out, Relentless Pursuit. Make sure you check it out. But he has been at the forefront of this battle with his gloves on, biting down on his mouthpiece and throwing bombs at these people. And
and Julie borrowed his notes to write her book and then just kind of trampled all over the thing. And she's like, I'm a hero. I'm on the cover of People magazine. Look, I'm not trashing her. That's great if she added to bringing attention to it. But don't make it about yourself, Julie. Start mentioning the victims. How's that?
Yeah, no,
I mean, really.
I can understand. I could understand for sure from your point of view, Maria, feeling like that, especially considering that she was
coming to interview us the day of the arrest. She was on her way here, but she didn't bother to interview Annie and I because it wasn't in vogue. Like, she needed to go to where the action was. And so she changed her flight to New York so she could be in style and hip. And it just felt a lot like Vicky. It's like, do you really care about the facts, or do you want to be on TV?
Well,
it seems like you just want to be on TV promoting yourself. And I'm tired of that. And Brad does not do that. You don't do that. Whitney Webb doesn't do that. The people I'm talking to are not self-promoting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And with that whole entire situation with somebody like Julie Brown, I talked about it earlier today on the show, how I think that anyone who is going to bring light to this case, that's awesome, and I give them all the credit in the world. But what I will say is this: I can understand why you would feel like this, why you would feel abandoned again after everything you've went through with journalists. It's like a bad reoccurring nightmare that keeps occurring, and they just keep adding and adding and adding to it, as opposed to doing what they're supposed to do, and that's getting to the bottom of the story with the survivor. Hey, sorry, folks. And what I was saying was about how it should be about the survivors. We had a bit of a technical glitch that I had to deal with, but that's okay. We'll pick right back up there. And we were talking about Julie K. Brown and how Maria feels with the whole Julie K. Brown situation and how that all shook out.
Right. Well, what's so bothersome is that Berman pretended he didn't know about the Jeffrey Epstein case. But I had told his office 24 years before he was making this statement, where he made the statement that he didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein. He'd never even heard of the case until the Miami Herald brought attention to it. And he knew by doing that would be incredibly painful for me. But he didn't care. This guy is so deep state. If he's not deep state, prove it to us, Berman, and make some arrests. If you're not deep state, show us Ghislaine's head on a platter in a prison. I mean, come on. Show us you're not deep state, Berman. And, it's gross because here he is giving Julie accolades and she's loving herself getting these awards. But what about the victims? What's going on for them?
I agree.
And, I wanted to say something about Eileen Guggenheim. One last thing, and then we can go to Randy. But I just wanted to say that when I was at the Wexner estate, I called this woman, who was dean of students, and she reprimands me. But I had also said to her, what if it had been Isabel? Isabel Wilkinson was her daughter, whatever. Anyway, I said, what if it had been Isabel? And she said, Maria, they would never harm Isabel. She thought that was hilarious because, if you're in the club, you don't harm the members.
Yeah, that's right. You know, if you're part of the herd, well, you're just food.
That's right.
You know, if you're not you're not part of the you're not part of the cowboy class in that regard. You're actually the food. And these people, they're so sick and twisted, and especially fakers like Eileen Guggenheim. They're the absolute worst.
A phony. It grosses me out because she's doing the bidding of these very dangerous people, you know, and now she's in a fury and a tizzy because I'm trying to tell her to step down. I waited 25 damn years for her to take it upon herself to be decent, and she wouldn't do it. And I'm not the one asking it anyway. Other people are doing it.
That's right. There's people doing it on your behalf.
That's right, and they're doing it because they're so offended by her existence.
Yep.
She thinks she is some movie star or something. Give me a break. So, like, there are two, quote, actors who go to that school sometimes and show up for photos. Those actors need to really reassess who their friends are because they're going to ruin their careers. People aren't going to watch them in movies anymore. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the reason I wanted to mention this is that I called everyone I had ever met from Wexner's, explaining to them. There was this one girl that was a graduate of the academy, and I'll never forget this. She was so cavalier about it. She was just kind of a creeper. And I said, you know, this is what they did. And she goes, oh, Maria, they're swingers. And I was like, what's a swinger? I mean, that wasn't even a term people really use, but she's from Los Angeles. So she just thought that was hilarious. And this was one of the graduates, right? So these are the people I was dealing with. They're like decrepit. So I call Eileen, and she mocks me and hangs up on me. But she knows Randy Bowie's out there pacing, salivating, and guaranteed she thought I was going to be killed. And she did not give a damn.
All right, so before we get to that, let's let the audience know that what we're talking about here is when Maria was experiencing her situation on the Wexner Ranch. She was calling these people, and, you know, she was attempting to let people know what occurred, and nobody cared. Everybody was cavalier. Oh, that's just the way it goes around here, basically, was the attitude they had.
Yes.
So
yes, and I called the New Albany Sheriff's Office first.
Right.
And the first time I called, they hung up.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what we're going to get to right now. We're going to get to a little bit about what you experienced while you were on the Wexner Ranch in New Albany, and we're going to talk about Randy Bowie, who you have been very vocal about lately.
Yes.
So let's start at the beginning. You met the Wexners obviously through Jeffrey Epstein.
I never met them. I never met them.
Okay, so you were introduced to the ranch, I should say, by Jeffrey Epstein. Yes. Okay, perfect. Let's make sure we're clear.
Actually, what happened is, yes, I was told that this Ohio estate would be a perfect place for me to do a project I was working on for a movie director, having nothing to do with any of these people. But Jeffrey very much wanted me to remain in his employment. And I think it's because of Annie, but who knows? So he said, no, you're going to remain my employee. So I did. I was still on the payroll. You know, he paid my credit card a pittance every month, just enough to keep me really hungry. And I had to work all these side jobs, right? And so that's why the dean was able to use me and all those people. But anyway, she was using me prior to that.
So basically it was like an artist in residence job, kind of.
Well, right. This was an artist in residence, absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I really didn't want to go. But I need to backtrack and say that Eileen Guggenheim, you know, she brought us to the second time I encountered Jeffrey and Guylaine was because Eileen Guggenheim forced me to go to the Zorro Ranch.
Right. And that's the time she lied about.
She's saying she doesn't remember,
yes.
But two of the students said, well, we remember her being there.
And that they said that in ArtNet News, and we covered that article, so make sure, check that article out because it's very informative as to laying the groundwork for Guggenheim being a liar.
Yes, absolutely. Or someone with severe dementia.
Yeah, right.
Either way, the old bat needs to go. You can't be on the board anymore. Sorry, old bat, you can't have your way all the time.
See ya.
I know you think you can abuse students, and I know you think that some students are of no value, and you call them nobodies, but sometimes people see it differently than you do.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and the chickens are coming home to roost now, and it's not just your voice alone in the forest calling for help and being unanswered. You've made the clarion call now, and guess what? People have now answered.
Right. I mean, the thing that, when Randy was pacing and all that was just really bad. But the worst thing was her making me go to that ranch. And she said she wanted me to sit on Jeffrey's lap and flirt with him.
And that was Eileen Guggenheim who wanted you to do that.
Eileen Guggenheim, the Dean of Students of the Academy at the time, who's now president of the board of the New York Academy of Art. Wow, that's not a real school.
And now,
holy crap.
And now,
I can't believe anyone would ever go there after this. I mean, it's just like, that school needs to go. It needs to go just like the FBI needs to go, because it's a corrupt, evil institution. It's really pathetic that they victim shame me.
Well, it says a lot about them as when they have Jeffrey Epstein as one of their patrons. Somebody as someone like that as a patron of the arts is it's despicable.
Listen to me. There are a few of them on that board that are despicable.
Yeah, I don't.
A few of their patrons are the grossest, and they're all involved in this case. What are the chances?
Right.
What are the chances that the royals and all those people are involved? It's not a chance. This is a cabal of very evil elites. And I got to see just a strip of it, and I was horrified. And it was enough to give me 2 kinds of cancer.
Right. And, look, here's the thing. You were on that ranch, and you were there as an artist in residence, and you were there because, you're a young artist, and this is an opportunity, but really you're there because the Dean of Students, Eileen Guggenheim, kind of jostled you in that direction with her rhetoric. And
she forced me.
Right.
It was a forced. I was forced to go to the Zorro Ranch by her.
Right.
I did not want to go.
The first time.
We were just told. This is how it works with Eileen Guggenheim, not real Guggenheim. Eileen Faux Guggenheim Wilkinson. This is how it works with this person, if you want to call her that. She tells you how it is, and you do it. Like when I didn't want to sell my painting for a pittance that I killed myself on all summer, and she wanted me to make what was the equivalent of literally, it was less than minimum wage that I made on the painting. $3,000 might sound like a lot, but materials were $1,500.
Yeah, and then time
spent. And it took me 3 months to make the painting.
Right.
And I get $1,500, so I'm getting like $500 a month for it.
Yeah,
and I worked all month on it.
Back up the Brinks truck.
Yeah. So here's what she does. When I said I don't want to sell it for that, she said, have a little grace.
Yeah, and
so verbal abuse. So it was always, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, calling somebody a nobody, that they're worthless, they're not Jewish enough, whatever it was abuse. And the reason I'm bringing it out is because I am just disgusted by that school for their comment about me. And I want them to know we are watching and we are not finished with them yet.
No, it's definitely the case. The full court press is certainly on, and they've been put on notice. Like I said, advocates in cases like this have a very strong voice, and it's solid work by Kirby Summers and the rest of the advocates that have taken up this cause. They've done a solid job here, and they're forcing an outlet like the Daily Mail to run their story basically by pressuring them, and that's how things work.
Actually, the Daily Mail was really on board, and they contacted us and said,
"Oh, great!
We can't stand this woman." I'm not quoting anyone, but the essence of it was, we want her off the board. Well, so here's this person who thinks she's so important, and nobody likes her. Isn't that funny?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole thing, the Daily Mail has done solid reporting on this whole case. They've been at the forefront of this whole case, so it really doesn't shock me that it didn't take much cajoling for them to run the petition and actually run it as an article.
Right, and they're running a story on on what Virginia and Mariska did.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to get to that. Definitely getting to that. That's one of the most.
But I just wanted to say though that I think it says a whole lot about a human being, if you want to call it that a person reaches out in the worst distress they've ever endured, and they're hung up upon. And the person also, the police in New Albany hung up on me.
Right. So
the local sheriff's department.
We're talking about at the Wexner Ranch now. At the Wexner ranch now.
No, it's not a ranch. It's an estate.
Estate.
So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. At the estate.
So the other is Zorro Ranch, and now we're on the Wexner estate.
Okay.
When I got to the Wexner estate, there was a person there that greeted me, and he introduced himself as Randy Bowie, and he said, I'm Special Forces, because I asked him about his background. Oh, I was Special Forces. I had never heard of this. So I wrote it down and looked it up later. And I'm like, what is Special Forces? I guess I was just the most naive person who only cared about drawing, and I really just knew nothing about the world.
Well, you're
other
an artist.
than I traveled through Europe at that point.
Look,
but I was so young.
Artists aren't known to be, these people that have their finger on the pulse of what the military is doing. You're an artist. You're a creative person. You're not worried about the military or soldiers of fortune. It's the last thing on your mind.
Right. Yeah, I just had never thought about it. I'd never thought about pedophilia, any of that stuff.
Right.
And all the stuff I was faced with once I got there. Anyway, so Randy says, Special Forces, he said, I'm Wexner's right-hand man. So then later, once he finds out that I'm telling news crews and people about him, I get a threat letter from his attorney, which is just the most infantile, nonsensical letter. And it's scolding me and it's threatening me that he will sue me. And he wants to know the second and the hour and the exact date because he travels all over the world and he couldn't possibly be Wexner's right-hand man and he was never Special Forces. And I'm like, I never said he was any of those things. He told me he was. And I remember exactly how he introduced himself. And it was really shocking to me that when, I was dealing with him and he's like a rabid animal pacing around the truck and panting and glaring at me and assuring me that I'm never leaving, I knew he was going to kill me. I knew he was going to kill me. And now that SOB is the bodyguard. Now, he has a company that has Will Smith. They protect Will Smith. They protect Angelina Jolie. That's not much of a stretch, is it? And then they also protect Taylor Lautner. Now, I don't know whether or not these Hollywood, pedowood people are part of it or not. But I do know that they need to get rid of that guy if they're not, because he's a real liability.
And now this man, Randy Bowie, he was the one that was responsible for you not being able to leave the estate.
That's
right? Okay.
He threatened my life over and over again. He assured me that I was never leaving.
And
I got sick. That's when I got sick. It was really weird. It was like when I finally did escape, I couldn't get up for a couple months. Like when I would try to sit up, I was too tired. Well, I started getting sick from this. That's how I know. It didn't make sense last time I was telling you about it that I knew I got sick there. What I know is that the doctor said it's been over 20 years that my brain tumor has been growing, and it's so rare that it comes from trauma.
And, there's a lot of people that might mock something like that, but those are people that have no idea about how bad trauma and stress can play a part in things like this.
Yeah, they're idiots. They are. Idiots.
I learned a lot when Carrie was ill.
Yes.
And going to the oncologist with her all the time, I asked a million questions, as you can obviously imagine with my fat mouth. I had a million questions to ask all the time. And the things that I learned about cancer and how it grows and how it moves inside of a body, I was blown away by the things that this is an oncologist we're talking about, and he said for sure stress and trauma and all of that plays a huge part in stuff like this.
Yes, it does.
When
I was dating, my boyfriend was Jeff Mendelsohn, and shout out to him if he ever hears this. He was the nicest guy, but I was kind of a psycho after I left that estate, and I broke up with him, and I wasn't very pleasant. But his father was the one who kind of created the whole immunotherapy buzz thing going. And so he taught me a lot about different kinds of cancer. And there's just an incredible amount of research right now in the field.
There is. And, there's all sorts of avenues to explore. And only people who have never experienced somebody really close to them being sick with cancer would mock and laugh at things they don't understand. And it's just what it is. It shows you the type of person that is. It's... there are a lot of evil people on this world and people who are just miserable with who they are. So they think they know everything and they want to mock and scorn without knowing all of the facts.
Absolutely. I was going to finish telling you about what Randy Bowie's legal letter was saying, that he could have never done all those bad things to me because, here it is, because he has a wife and child.
Oh,
that's his argument.
That sounds familiar, huh? Just like the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. He was eating pizza and he was with his daughters. How many of these people, all of these sick bastards, use their family as their alibi? It's so gross.
So gross, but it's also irrelevant.
It really is.
What does having a wife and child have to do with holding someone hostage 25 years ago?
Yeah, the BTK killer had a wife too.
And you know what? He can hear me on this. I am never letting it go. Never.
Oh, no.
When I found out I was sick again, I was furious because I knew exactly why I got sick. And if Wexner and Randy Bowie want to keep threatening me about a lawsuit, you go right ahead. I'd love for you to sue me so I could sue you right back.
And look, these are the kind of people that they have had people like you on the run for so long, Maria, that they believe that that's going to keep occurring. But what
that's like Eileen Guggenheim. She thinks, well, how dare her mention this after a quarter of a century and half of her life? How dare her? She was 25 when I tried to sell her over and over again.
As if that...
I mean, they get so self-righteous. And, you know, it's worth mentioning Alan Dershowitz's book is Chutzpah. I mean, you can't make it up, right? That's the name of one of his books.
Oh, I know.
He's even willing to admit it.
He's definitely quite the unit. There's no doubt about it.
He is quite a bad actor in this.
So,
he is a very, 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 very sinister human being.
So just to backtrack a little bit more to the ranch, when you were, to the estate, when you were there on the estate and you were attempting to leave and you called the New Albany police, you talked to the New Albany police about things.
I talked to the New Albany Sheriff's Department, a woman. She hung up on me. I called again, and she said, well, the sheriff's at the gate. But this is the other part I didn't mention last time. She also said, we work for Wexner, and she hung up on me.
So, okay, yeah.
And that was it. That's 911. Okay, imagine that. So you've called 911. So I call all these people to let them know because I know that dear Abby sits there watching all day. I mean, what a sick woman to have. I mean, can you imagine their house guests now? They're probably going, did they watch everything we did? You know?
Right.
I wonder if they'll have any friends left. I mean, these people, they have every part of every property they've ever owned wired to the hilt. How can anyone ever hang out with these people?
And
they are sick.
That's in every room, right? Guest rooms, bathrooms,
etc. That's in every room, especially the private places. You better believe it.
And
I don't know, I would sit down on the toilet, and Ghislaine Maxwell would call to reprimand me about being on the toilet when I needed to be doing my paintings.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, no.
It's crazy to hear.
And they starved me. They starved me, and Ghislaine's excuse for that was, well, you needed to have smaller breasts. You know, to make me look nubile.
Wow.
And I was 25. Now, I looked 10 years younger than I was. I will admit that. Back then I did. And I think that's why they kept me around, because there is a precious, precious victim, Sarah Ransom. And it was the same for her. She was in her 20s, but she looked so young. So young. Like when you look in her little eyes, I mean, it just breaks your heart when you see the pictures of her on that island. And they starved her too. So it was like something they did to the older women too. And then there's another girl who's had a lot of medical issues. Again, same situation, where they talked to her about her weight, and then she developed issues over that. And she's got severe health issues now because of it. And she's beautiful and just kind of like an angel. And it's like, so it was a pattern for them. All of these things are patterns. And I love how the Academy is acting like I'm alone saying this. No, I'm not. Like you said, I'm no longer a voice in the forest screaming.
No,
we're joining forces. And like I said last time to Alan Dershowitz, that dirtbag, we're going to kill these people with love. The love we have for each other, and also with information.
Yeah.
Just revealing, because we don't have to keep their dirty secrets. They have to keep them.
That's what they always counted on, the silence before, because they could have their lapdogs in the legacy media be complicit, but they can't do that anymore.
Nope. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of internet and everything. So no one can so we can't communicate any longer.
Well,
why should we be allowed to do that?
Yeah, look, I don't put anything past these people, but one thing I will tell you is this: the fact that what happened to you occurred on the Wexner's property, and it has not been more of a deep dive by the legacy media into the Wexner's behavior. It's mind-boggling to me, and it's one of the main reasons I've talked about the Wexners so much here on the podcast. Never mind the financial aspect. The fact that they were complicit in holding you hostage, it was their property. It's amazing. They
wouldn't let me go outside, Bob.
It's amazing.
They wouldn't let me go outside, but now Abigail, she's suffering from the same kind of dementia that Eileen Guggenheim has. Isn't it weird how all of Ghislaine's friends have dementia? That is so weird.
You would think it was like catchy or something.
Right.
It's just... Maria, I don't even know what to say about what occurred on that ranch and with this Randy Bowie character. and all of the other things that you experience. It's just...
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to bring up on that estate in Ohio, in New Albany, there's a girl that was kind of like a handler for me or something there. It was Jeffrey's girlfriend. Her name's Claire Hazel. I've mentioned her to you before. But Claire Hazel had pointed out she had a boyfriend as well. Even though she was dating Jeffrey, she also had a boyfriend. And Jeffrey kept her at the university. And she took classes, and she had all these credit cards, and she could buy whatever she wants. She was kept there. But she was lonely, and so she had a boyfriend. And this kid was so sweet. He's so sweet. He reached out to me and to tell me that Claire had said, hey, one day when they were at what they call the Rotunda, which is the guest house that Wexner had built to copy the Capitol in that creepy town.
In Columbus.
So she points out, do you see those little lights out there? And they were like little laser beams. And he said, yes. And she said, those are the sharpshooters. They're always out there. So I was told about the sharpshooters, right? And I was also introduced to the staff of Special Forces guys. There were 4 or 3. I know of 3 faces for sure at the time. But I think it's hilarious that nobody remembers that they abuse people. Isn't that amazing? Nobody remembers the people that they were friends with. It must be an elite syndrome where they have this horrible it might be called elite dementia.
I think you're onto something. You might have just discovered the newest affliction suffering that the rich are suffering from.
Oh, God, we all have to stay in another 2 years because elite dementia is going around now.
All right, Maria. Well, look, I don't want you to, overexert yourself. I know that you're a little dizzy today and, a little under the weather. So what we're going to do is we'll wrap up here. But before we do that, I would like to mention again, like I did earlier on today's earlier episode, that Virginia Roberts and her charity group has set up a GoFundMe account for Maria so that she can navigate her battle with cancer while just focusing on that battle of cancer.
Ever.
Yeah, and
the sweetest thing that anyone. It's a few of the survivors did it together, and Mariska is one of them. They're just the sweetest people. I mean, honestly, this is what I'm talking about. Alan and Gloria and all these like evil actors in this. They're not going to win because our love is going to win.
It's no doubt, and we see it already. There's an outcry and just so many people are standing in your corner, and it brings joy to my heart to see Virginia and company step forward the way they have.
Oh, they're so sweet.
Because look,
it's really heartwarming.
Battling cancer.
Thank you so much,
yes,
Bobby.
Absolutely, battling cancer the way you are right now, it's an uphill climb. But guess what? You are way tougher than this cancer. You're going to kick its ass, and we're all here for you. So with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Inside of the description box, you'll be able to find the link for Maria's GoFundMe. And if you're going to donate to anything right now, any other content, no, don't donate to this GoFundMe instead, folks. This is where it matters. This is what matters. Everybody else will be all right. So with that said, I will be back tomorrow with some more, and Maria will be back with us next week. All right, everybody. Until then, have a fantastic evening.